Hey, everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Liz from Texas, and she's agreed to share her story. Like many who get better with this TMS mind body approach, they just want to tell as many people as possible and try to help as many people as possible. So, Liz, thank you for being willing to do that. I don't really know too much about your story, but if you would introduce yourself and kind of tell us a little bit about your journey with this, pain symptoms or whatever was going on with you and kind of how you got to where you are now or you're willing to share a success.
Okay, I am very happy to share. I'm still on the journey, but I'll tell you, I'm not nearly where I was.
That's
And for me,
fantastic.
that's a big win. And if I can, if somebody hears my story and can get way ahead of me, that's awesome. I mean, I'm still willing to do what it takes. So, I guess where it started was I've dealt with migraines for ever since I was like 20 or out of high school. And of course, I went to the doctors and finally was diagnosed by this man. He said, "You'll just have to learn to live with it for the rest of your life." And I'm 66 now. So I have had to live with it for a very long time. And um, I have suffered with it mentally, emotionally, physically,
Sure.
and have missed out on so many things. And I felt like my identity was just pain.
Right.
I'm migraine, I'm pain. That's all I am. Not that I haven't done a lot of things in my life, but I did miss out on a lot. And I've, been the whole journey with the medical system, the shots, the emergency room visits, the you're a drug seeker, being treated very badly by the medical, um, that whole medical system.
Sure.
And, I mean, things helped. I would go and get shots and do all that. I even researched it and went to try different treatments, did some kind of, some procedure that was horribly painful in the back of my head here.
Sure.
And I mean, I've been through all kinds of stuff. Let's just say that. I don't want to go through every
Yeah,
single
we don't
story.
have to get into the gory
No,
details.
no. But it's been a lot because it's definitely affected my life. When you are in pain,
Sure.
as everyone knows, it affects every facet of your life. And, pain's not fun. And I would have to say, since it's been 40 something years that I've struggled with this. So tried everything I could possibly, think of. The Dave piercing, the Botox, nothing ever worked. And I have had all kinds of counseling through the years for lots of
Sure.
different issues. So I definitely fit the profile of TMS person.
Right.
Okay, so a few years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, I was pretty much decided this is something I have to live with. Well, a friend of mine said, you don't have to just settle. And so I started investigating again. And it's weird because this site I was on, and I had seen this person post before, and we must have kind of had a similar journey because she said you need to try, and I hope it's okay to say Curable,
Yeah, that's
the
fine.
Curable app. Okay.
Yeah.
She told me about an app called Curable. So I, I said, okay, I'm gonna try this. So I went on it, and that was the beginning of this whole journey.
Great.
And I learned about pain and where it comes from. And then I think there was a Dr. Lorimore. He's like a
Lorimer
nephew.
Mosley down in
Yes.
Australia. Yes.
So I watched some of his stuff. I started reading Dr. Sarno. Um, just started really immersing myself in this whole thing.
That's great.
Totally different way of thinking.
Hmm.
To be honest, I was sick of the medical model. I'm like, I actually the year before decided I'm not going to the emergency room anymore. That's out. I I can't do that anymore. So, and then this one is when Curable started, when I started Curable. And I learned oh man, I learned so much. And it resonated with me. I'm like, this is it. This is it. This is not a medical problem. And I started kind of sharing some things. And I think I read Nicole's book. I started reading a lot of the other books, started really, like I said, immersing myself and started talking to people about it. Of course, they don't understand. You know, I try to explain it and, oh, it's mind over body or mind over matter. And I'm like, well, it's really kind of more than that.
Yeah, it's deeper.
So it's much deeper and it's really hard to explain to people. But I knew if I could explain it, then that's really gotten into my head. You know, I understand it. And I know that this journey is like this, you know, and as long as I'm going this way, up instead of, you know, down, I'm making progress.
I kind of joke around that the journey's kind of like this. It goes up, down, up, down, up, down, and all of a sudden it feels like you're going all over the place. And, you know, because
Exactly.
it's not a straight line. It's not like you're recovering and then boom, the pain's gone and you're done. There's a
Mm-mm.
zig, a zag, speed bumps along the way. Sometimes you feel better, sometimes you feel worse. And
Right,
you know, the
exactly.
most predictable thing about TMS is its unpredictability.
Exactly. And
You
once
know,
you understand that, because I've seen people's posts and they're like, why am I not better yet? And I've been there. Like,
yeah,
well, people are getting better. Why am I not? And, you
yeah.
know, a timetable and listening to you and you know, your videos have been a tremendous help for me.
Thank you.
And yeah, all those questions that people put on there, I've been there. I know, you know, I've listened to Alan Gordon.
Sure.
Um, I even got a pain psychology person,
From his,
therapist.
yeah, from
Mhm.
his pain
Yes.
psychology center in LA.
Exactly. And I was with her for a while, and then COVID happened, and I don't know. I somehow something got messed up. But I thought we made some progress, but it was mainly not really doing somatic tracking. It was more trying to get me to know me and the fact that I'm such a perfectionist and a people pleaser and all that stuff. And um, but I started to see results. But I was one of those people that said, I gotta know the exact reason all this started. You know,
That
I've
doesn't
got
help
to
us. Yeah.
no. But I was like, and then she was like, you don't need to know that. And then of course listening to you, I'm like, I've got to quit putting my energy into why, the whys.
There's nothing to
And
figure out. And even if you could figure out exactly what caused it 40 something years ago, what do you do with that? It doesn't
right,
get you any closer to getting rid of the migraines. It just,
no,
okay, great, I figured it out. Awesome. Now what?
exactly. And it was good to know that I didn't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I also, during that journey, and it's a journey, I mean, it's a journey of
Mhm.
getting to know who you are,
Sure.
really, and what triggers you, you know, psychologically, emotionally, all that. And I'm glad for the journey. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's been painful, but I just feel like I've learned so much. So I've probably done like what everybody else does. You just read all the books, you know, try to fill yourself with all this information. Well, I was in another program for migraines, which was I was before I did this, and it was all about eating keto and all this kind of stuff and walking. When you had pain, you had to go out and run or walk on the treadmill. So anyway, was kind of doing that, but I was kind of on this journey. So I'm walking on my treadmill and I'm kind of talking to myself and kind of doing some meditation while I'm walking. And I was getting a migraine. It is the first time that migraine went away. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something to this.
Sure.
That has never happened.
And so
Actually, I take that back.
what were you doing that you believe helped it go away? Was it the walking and the mindfulness during it?
The mindfulness, actually, you know what I did? I was talking to my child from back, like, I am so sorry I put you through so much crap. That's all it was. It was like I was making peace with that child that I had harmed
Right.
by being so negative on myself. Because I
and
mean,
and perfectionistic, sure.
yes, because my journey, my pain journey was like, I, I was like, I was mad at God. I was mad at my pain. I was like, I was so hard on myself. It was like, it's all your fault that you've got this. I mean, I would never be mean to somebody the way I mean to myself,
Right.
like you were, and I've always done that. And to be honest, I was using alcohol and drugs and all that. So I actually got into
Common.
recovery,
It's common.
and that's, yeah, because you don't know how to deal with it.
You numb it out.
Yeah. And of course, that doesn't help. But I got in recovery, and I think I got in recovery. And then a few years later, then I started learning about TMS. So
Sure.
I think the timing was perfect.
Now, for anybody who doesn't know what TMS is, it is a terminology that is common in the chronic pain world in kind of an alternative view. You're not going to hear it from your doctors or hospitals or anything like that. It's not a mainstream medicine thing, but TMS stands for tension myositis syndrome. It's a term coined by Dr. John Sarno, probably in the 70s and 80s. And he practiced up until his retirement in the early 2000s. He's no longer with us, but his work has really carried on. If you want just a brief overview, go to painforyou.com, and there's a video on the homepage that'll kind of give you an idea as to what this TMS thing is. So we don't take a lot of time here, but just understand that the vast majority of chronic pain, whether it be migraines or other, back pain, neck pain, you name it, is learned and is coming from the brain, not the body. If that sounds crazy, dig in, because as Liz is sharing here, there's something to this, and you're not going to hear it from your doctor. So I'll let you keep going, Liz. I just wanted to kind of, for anybody who's
Absolutely.
seeing migraine success story on YouTube and they go, well, what's TMS? They keep saying TMS. Well, it's this other reason for pain that is really the way out for most of us.
And I like how you also use TMS as too much stress.
Too much stress. My brother jokes around. He says too much shit, And
right.
then I add onto it a couple other acronyms. TMT, too much thinking. TMF, too much fear. And all of that creates what I like to refer to as almost like a nervous system overload. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. There's just too much piled into your subconscious, into your psyche that just can't handle it. We end up with pain, and we get sucked into the medical world, and we're told things that, a lot of people are. You'll just have to get used to it. You'll be in pain all your life. And we believe it. And then
Well, yeah.
and our brain believes it. And if our brain believes it, it's going to keep on creating these migraines. So in any event, there's education out there at painforyou.com where people can learn what this is all about. But I'll let you keep going with your story.
No, I like that you said that. You have those other too much thinking. That's me. Overthinking everything. Fear. Because, your first reaction when you're in pain is, like you said, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to handle it this time. How much pain am I going to be in? What am I going to miss? And from what I've learned is fear is a big, big.
Sure. Yeah. Too much stress, too much thinking, too much fear.
Mm-hmm.
And fear and the attention we give to the symptoms is what keeps them persistent. And so even when you're not having a migraine, you're always like, oh my God, I hope I don't get one today.
You're ready for the next one.
I'm going to a family wedding and I hope I don't get a migraine and ruin the whole trip. And oh my God,
Oh, I know. That's
and
me too.
we live in fear of the next episode. So it's very common.
Absolutely. Staying in fear most of the time. Like, yeah, when's that next one? What do I have to do that day? Can I stay home? Yeah, all that stuff is just always there, always. Even if I'm having a good time. But yeah, a lot of it is I wouldn't have known this. I wouldn't have known any of this. I was, typical TMS person who had no idea that I was just perpetuating the pain.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out to you and to anybody listening, I know you've said once or twice in this conversation already that you kind of feel like you brought this on yourself. and you didn't. This is not your fault, right? You know, assigning blame to yourself,
Just makes it worse.
it doesn't help you recover. All it does is make you feel like I brought this on myself, so maybe I deserve it for some reason. No, you don't. It's where you ended up. Our life experience
Exactly.
brought you to this point. You started having migraines in high school and then early 20s for some reason. Your life may have been chaotic, overwhelming, and you started encountering pain. Then you got medicalized. You went to doctor, treatment. Nothing worked. Then all of a sudden, the reason that the migraine started in the first place almost doesn't matter because now it took on a life of its own. And now you feel like I'm a migraine person. I get
Mm-hmm.
them all the time. And, every time it happens, life screeches to a halt. Go to the emergency room. They never help.
Oh
This
no.
drug, that drug, this treatment, that treatment. And we become medicalized. And before you know it, we believe that the doctors say, just get used to it. We don't know what to do for you. And what you discovered when you found curable was there's an alternate answer as to why you have them in the first place and why they persist. And so let's jump into that a little bit. Like, when did you start seeing a shift? And did you do a lot in the TMS world as far as trying to employ some of these practices? And if so, kind of when did you start noticing that, you know, you started making some progress, and what did that look like?
Um, I I think once I knew that it was not a part of the body, that it was a mind thing, things started to kind of shift. Now I would still have pain, but I like the fact that when I listened to you, it was what's the word you use? I always forget. It's not avoidance. It's not ignoring. You
Indifference.
indifference. You acknowledge it. Go, okay, you're here, but I'm not going to let you run my day.
Sure.
I'm going to do, and I'm an exercise instructor,
Okay.
and I have taught for over 30 years, whether I had a migraine or not. I mean, I just had to do it,
Right.
and I realized that I kind of had that advantage that even though it was there, but I had a new mindset. It was like indifferent. It's like you're there instead of going, oh my gosh, it's there. How am I going to get through this class? But I'm going to get through it because I always do, but I hate it. And so it was more like, okay, you're there, and I'm just going to do what I need to do.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I've been doing. And it's not always easy. No
No.
one said it's easy. But it's simple. It's simple to just go, okay, I know you're there, but I'm not going to let you, I'm not going to be a victim.
Right.
I'm going to do what I need to do. And it was that mindset of you are not running my life anymore. And I like what you said about it used to have a mind of its own. And I mean, it was like bigger than life. And now it's like, yeah, you're kind of over here.
That's
And
awesome.
the mindset of knowing that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to take over my life. But I do acknowledge that it's there. I don't ignore it. At first, it takes a while to understand the whole difference thing. It's like, well, so you're not there, but I'm hurting. No, you're there, but I don't have to pay attention, give you that
Yeah.
much attention.
Yeah. I mean, indifference to me can be summed up with either one word, whatever. I've hurt before. I'm hurting now. So what? And so what is another phrase I like because it's saying, all right. And when you recognize and you have the knowledge and you've done the assessments and figured out that, okay, I'm truly not broken, the pain is real, but it's being created by the brain. So it doesn't mean it's a structural problem. Your head's not going to explode. Nothing bad's going to happen. So if you're having yet another migraine, so what? Right? Because you recognize then that because it's from this mind body TMS stuff and not from some structural hormonal brain chemistry defect, by teaching your class as you've done countless times, you're no worse off. You're not hurting or damaging yourself. So it's easier to go, so what, when you know what's causing it. When you don't know what's
Exactly.
causing it, it's nearly impossible to to set aside the fear and say,
Right.
so what? Don't care. I'm not concerned. But once you get that knowledge and that acceptance that this is what's going on with me, so what becomes a lot easier. So I'll let you keep going. I just wanted to jump in there.
And that's a key word, acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I think you said, and I've heard this, what you resist persists.
Sure.
So if I resist it, that's not the answer. If I accept it and go, okay, you're there. I know you're there. You've made it known you're there. And acceptance and just that feeling of safety, knowing that it's not structural.
It's not
It's
damaging
like,
me.
I think that just sends the brain that sense that it's okay. It's okay, even though you're there, I am safe. And I think just the feeling of safety.
Yeah, I point out all the time that chronic pain is fueled by fear and the attention that we give the pain. And when we can dial down the fear and shift our attention back to life, teaching your class, or the various things that you do in your life, you're taking away the fuel source for chronic pain. And when you don't give it the fear or the attention, the brain goes, oh, look at Liz. She's not terribly concerned with this. Maybe I, meaning the brain, don't need to be concerned either. And the whole system can kind of settle down. So that's awesome. You pick those things up through
And
Curable, the
fear,
other things you learned, and through the videos I share. That's awesome.
and fear is always been a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Just fear of lots of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, if you don't have this knowledge, you just don't understand it. I mean, I am so far ahead than I've ever been. I mean,
Right.
thank you to that person that told me about Curable, because
Well,
that just started my journey.
but keep in mind, a lot of people may have rejected that when they heard about it. And 10 years earlier, you may have said, oh, this is BS. I'm not,
Right,
that's hogwash. What are you talking
right,
about? I have a real problem. My
exactly.
doctor told me that I got to live with it. And so not everybody's ready to hear this. And if that's
Mhm.
you, I'm going to encourage you to set aside your skepticism. This is not a leap of faith. This is not blind faith. This is based on real scientific evidence. They just did a study in Boulder, Colorado, and it's regarding back pain, but it's the same exact thing. The brain's still causing it, and it was extremely successful. And so there's legitimate science behind this. This is not wishful thinking. This is not new age. This is not rainbows and unicorns and sunshine. You there? Oh,
I
you
guess
muted.
that system didn't work. Uh-oh,
Yeah,
something
you're okay.
happened.
No, I can
Okay,
hear you.
okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah, and when I've talked to people about this, because I've had opportunities, because people know, that I've had this for so long, and so I've had a chance to kind of share stuff with them, with their pain. And every time somebody has pain, I'm like, I know
I
the
want to talk to you.
answer.
You have to listen to me. Yeah, you muted again.
So, trying to think of where I was at. Oh, so, gosh, where am I at?
Well, you were saying, anytime you run into somebody with pain,
Oh, yeah.
you keep on muting. I don't know why. I don't know why it keeps doing that to you.
Okay.
How's your battery on the phone?
My phone is great. It's just that
It's
my phone keeps going off.
it
My daughter keeps trying to call me, and I
Oh, well,
put a
that's
do
why
not.
maybe when she calls it goes to mute.
It does. All
Okay.
right, now she's going to call my husband, and hopefully my husband will say, she's
She's
in an
on.
interview, leave her
Okay.
alone.
All right.
Um,
Well, bear with it. That's fine.
okay.
These don't have to be perfect.
Well, I'm very passionate about the whole this whole pain-free movement now.
Sure.
So, but when I talk to people that, like, I'm a life coach now, I just started that, kind of a recovery coach for
Mhm.
addiction. And actually I want to start on the whole pain thing. But people have to be done with the medical system. I really believe that. I
You
think that
almost need to hit the wall.
yes, they have to go, I know this is not the answer. Because as long as that's still there and people are still looking for answers in there. I just feel like they're not ready to hear this. And I will say that I'm like, you've got to have a really open mind. And pain is real. It still hurts. In fact, I've heard that it's even worse than regular pain.
Certainly can be.
Yeah. And the thing of it is it's not just migraine. I've had a multiple of symptoms. Migraine has been the biggest one. I've had I've had all kinds of stuff. What's really amazing though, I'll have like a knee pain and it'll last like a day. It goes away. I mean, these little things that I have, it'll be like, oh no, what happened? I'll go, wait a minute. No, it's no big deal. And it goes away. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Because, I teach exercise and I think, oh, did I do something? And most of the time it was like, no, my brain's just going, nah, you're not paying attention. So I'm going to give you this little thing. And I'll just go, okay, but you'll be gone tomorrow. And most of the time it is. Now, the one thing that has just happened since July is I've kind of had twinges of some back issues, but my sister got diagnosed with a terminal disease.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting ready to go to Tucson to go be with her. My low back that day I woke up was excruciating. And so I didn't go that day. And I still went to the chiropractor because I'm like, what is this? This is something I don't know if
Right.
this is TMS or what. And I think I even wrote to you, I'm like, well, I climbed the rock wall and I did this and maybe that's it. And I'm like, still I'm thinking this might be TMS still. So I went to be with my sister and she did pass away. It was pretty
I'm so sorry.
traumatic. It was very difficult. But then I started having spasmings in my back and I still didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it because I have that in my head about TMS.
Sure.
If I didn't, I probably would have been freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
I was freaked out a little bit because I'm like, what is this?
Right.
So, but I was like, I am so grateful I know this stuff because I know I've probably been like, something's wrong, something medically, structurally, whatever. Well, I've still kind of had some issues, but they'll go away. Then they'll kind of come back a little bit, but I don't baby it. I'm not babying it.
Yeah, so that's the proof. If they go away and then they come back, it can't be structural because a structural problem doesn't take a break.
And it's been like painful. I mean, spasming and all this. And
I
I'm like,
get it.
yeah, because you've had it.
Mm-hmm. But
I'm like, what?
The fact that it takes a break and leaves you alone for a little bit, then comes back, it's evidence that it's created in the brain. And the one thing that I often say is the purpose of pain is to protect us from something the brain perceives as dangerous. So the more you can teach yourself and teach your brain that your back is perfectly fine, that this is just a little bit of a hypervigilant, brain and nervous system, and give it as little attention and fear as possible, and be extremely clear that this is nothing more than TMS, the faster it'll go away. Because when we have a little flare up, that oftentimes gets our attention. We kind of freak out and, oh my God, what's going on? But the sooner we can calm ourselves down and reassure ourselves that this is just TMS. And I always say in my videos that, like, look, indifference isn't always available to us, especially if it's hurting really bad. But the next best thing is calm reassurance and reminding yourself, this is just TMS. I didn't do anything crazy. Didn't fall off the roof and land on my back. This, it just started hurting. And coincidentally, it started hurting right around your sister's visit. And that, again, structural problems don't wait until you're visiting an ailing sister to start, your body doesn't fall apart at that time. So I have no doubt that your back is 100% TMS.
I believe that. I do. And if I wouldn't have known that, like I said, if I wouldn't have had this foundation of understanding about TMS, I probably would have, And of course, not talking about it and telling people, and I've done some of that, now I got this low back pain, and I'll teach my class and go, well, I can only do this or that. And I could probably kind of fine tune that a little bit and not be so.
Yeah. The more you talk about your symptoms, the more attention you're giving them, and therefore the brain perceives them to be more important than they actually are. So I'm going to encourage you to speak about your back as little as possible, right?
And
Because
so if I feel like I can't do as much, just
yeah, your phone went out again.
okay. Sorry about that. She's calling again.
If do you want to send her a quick text and say I'll get back to you? I'm on the line or no?
Yeah, because you'll probably edit all this and
Well, I don't really need to, but if you
oh,
need
okay,
to reach out to her and tell her I'll be right back, then you can do that and we can pause for 30 seconds.
okay,
If not,
okay. Can we pause for a second? I'm gonna go um
yeah,
tell
that's
my
fine. Let
husband to
me
call
hit
her.
hold on.
Okay.
All right, folks, sorry about the little interruption there. Liz is on her phone and her daughter kept calling in, so kind of caused the video to stutter a little bit and mute her. So um, I'd like to shift a little bit here because I'm sure a lot of people watching this will be like, okay, great, migraine success story. Can you give us an indication as to how frequent, how severe they were, and where you're at now with regard to the migraines?
My pain was definitely like a 10. I would have major, and it would shift. Sometimes it would be here, sometimes it would be here, sometimes it would be back here. And the intensity was excruciating. It was really super painful.
Right.
And it used to keep me down for 3 days.
Okay.
I mean, I just knew, okay, at the beginning, it's going to be 3 days worth.
And how often were these occurring?
Um, like every week, maybe
Wow.
I would lose almost a whole week. They were happening a lot,
Okay.
about every week. And I missed a lot.
Sure.
And then, I always attribute it to what I ate.
You've been told that. Sure.
Right. And I still kind of have a struggle with that. I'm still, um, kind of having, it's still kind of an issue, but not like it used to be. Um, so they are no longer 3 days.
Okay. That's great.
There goes my husband. So when I have one now, I'm like, it'll be gone. It'll be gone the next day or whatever. And the intensity isn't nearly like it used to be.
Okay.
And they're not as
And
often.
yeah, I was going to say, how often are they now?
I still am, I still struggle a little bit. I think in my brain, I'm still thinking that food is still a factor,
But it's not.
and mainly sugar, and I think I'm conditioned and programmed in my mind. So that's still something I have to work out. And not that I don't think sugar is good for me anyway, but
I get it, but it doesn't have to cause a migraine.
right. So that's still something I have to work on.
Okay.
But as far as,
My suggestion there is that if you do have sugar, visualize that you're going to be perfectly okay. Smile, eat it, enjoy it, because we all know, we know it's not good for us, but it sure tastes good. And if we're
oh
going to
yeah,
do it, let's
enjoy
set
it.
aside the expectation that it's going to punish me later, because that it's not. I mean, billions of people around the planet eat sugar all the time, and not everybody's getting migraines. And you're not some special kind of formula of human being that sugar affects you,
Right.
right? So the belief that sugar is dangerous is what raises the danger signals in your brain and
Yes.
says, oh no, I just ate sugar at lunch. And so now I'm going to have a headache. And your brain goes, oh my God, here we go. Let's go. Let's fire it up. And so the fear is the bigger issue than the actual sugar itself.
So that's kind of stuck a little
No,
bit.
stop that. It's not stuck.
Okay.
It's an old belief that you are changing.
Okay.
Stuck means I can't do anything about it.
Oh, okay. Okay. That sounds better. So it's
Yeah,
a belief
it's
that
an
I am
old
still
belief that you are working on shifting.
like that. I'm gonna have to write that down. It's an
It's
old
just
belief
something
that I'm working on shifting.
yeah, it's something you used to believe. You know, just
Right.
put it in the past tense,
Okay.
you know, because have you ever eaten sugar and not gotten a migraine?
Yes.
Okay, there's the
Yeah.
proof.
Hmm.
Hold on to that proof. And it probably, you don't have to go back and figure it out, but it probably had to do with the amount of concern you had over the sugar
Oh, yes.
in the moment. And if you were like, whatever, not a big deal, I'm going to eat a little bit of it, no problem. You weren't worried about it. The migraine didn't come. But other times you're like, I don't want to eat it, but I'm gonna because it looks delicious, and but I'm gonna pay for it later. And then you know,
Hmm.
2 hours later, you're like, when's the migraine coming? Let
Yep.
me clear my schedule for the next few days. And
Oh, yeah. That's what's me.
the,
Definitely.
the expectation of pain, you know, Dr. Schubner, one of the main medical doctors in the TMS space, this mind body space, talks about something called predictive coding. And how he explained it was that if we expect something, the brain can literally create it out of thin air. So if we expect a migraine, the brain can go, here you go, at your request.
Wow.
You know, so, and that's just how the brain works. If we expect to have a great day down at the beach, we're gonna. If we
Yeah.
expect it to be a horrible day,
It's gonna be.
it's gonna be. It's like if you expect to be hurt in a relationship, you're always gonna be looking for all the things that are gonna hurt you in a relationship. If you expect it to go better, you're gonna be less critical and judgmental about every little thing. And so expectations, I mean, if you can, visualize a better outcome, right? Because I'll sometimes ask people, do you do much visualization? And they'll say, oh, no, not really, because that seems to be, you know, a self help type of thing. And people think it's a formal practice, but we all visualize all the time, every day. Anytime you think about something in the future, we're visualizing. So when you ate sugar in the past, you would visualize, I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to get a migraine. And so I'm going to encourage you to shift that visualization and say, okay, I can eat this. It's not great for my waistline. It's not great for my blood sugar, but so what? It's not harmful
Right.
long term in limited quantities. So I'm going to enjoy it once in a while.
And
And
I have started
change.
that to a certain extent.
Yeah. But that'll
And
help you because the less you assign something outside of TMS to be causing it, the faster your brain goes, oh, you mean food's okay? Doesn't matter what she eats, right? Because pain is created as a result of danger signals. Right now, you look at sugary sweets as, oh my God, that's dangerous.
Mhm.
Well, pain is created to stop you from doing something dangerous. So if you keep on thinking sugar's dangerous, every time you eat it, your brain's going to go, here's some pain so you don't eat it again. Why do you keep eating it? You're not
Right.
listening to me. We have to
Right.
teach the brain that the sugar's not dangerous. And we do that by expecting the best, eat a little bit in moderation, and when you have a success, great, celebrate it. Not by eating the rest of the cake, but by just, you know, just recognizing that okay, I'm not broken. This doesn't have to affect me. And I'm not saying to eat sugar 6 times a day because then you won't be happy looking in the mirror. And so
Right.
that's not the answer either. The answer is
Right.
simply just disconnecting sugar from migraine. Are not they are not hardwired together. It's the belief and the fear of the sugar that more often turns it on than not. And so just remember all the times you've had sugar and you didn't get the migraine. That's proof that
Right.
you can do it. Just change your expectations. And if it does happen, kind of chuckle and go, I know what you're doing, Mr. Brain, Mrs. Brain. It's not a big deal.
Well,
Right?
and I've taught everybody around me. So they always say to me, they'll take sugar away from me. I go, you're not supposed to eat that. So I've kept it going by other
Yeah.
people,
And you
my
may want to
family.
coach those around you and say, I may have sugar from time to time because it's not dangerous. And so I know you love me and I know you've been trying to help me, but let's stop the pulling it away from you because you might just literally want a bowl of ice cream. If they're saying you can't have it,
Right.
you know, then now all of a sudden you're pissed off that you can't have it. And there's
Right.
other emotions and danger signals involved in that. So,
Right.
coach those around you to stop asking about your pain, to stop helping you with the pain by cautioning you, don't do this, don't do that. Even coach your exercise people in the class. Hey, we're not going to talk about my pain. If I bring it up, that's fine, but don't ask me every time because all it does is keep me thinking about it. The more I think about it, the more it sticks around, the back in particular. Um, so coach those around you professionally and your people in your family.
I think that's the one thing really need to work on is talking about it too much. And then my family, that might be you know,
The reason why it's hanging on a little bit.
right.
So let me ask you a question. Comparatively, how it was to where you are now, have you kind of felt like you've got your life back?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
And your fear level has gone from a 10 out of 10 to maybe a 2,
2.
3,
Right. Yeah.
where shoot, I got another headache,
Right.
but not a big deal. I
And
would go
I was
ahead.
just going to say your video about suffering versus pain. I was suffering before.
Mhm.
I mean, I was, because I made it into this huge thing. It affected me mentally, emotionally, all that. Now it's just pain.
Yeah,
It's not suffering.
it's an unpleasant sensation that is not damaging me or not harmful.
Right.
And when you look at it like, okay, it feels weird, it feels pretty not good, but
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing bad happening. It doesn't mean anything awful is occurring, not dangerous. We can say, I'm sore, but I'm safe. And the more you can convince yourself and your brain that you're okay, the faster the brain lowers its vigilance and hypersensitivity and overreaction to a little thing called a headache. I'm not minimizing it. At one point, it was not just a little thing called a headache. It was pretty darn,
Yes.
disruptive.
Yes. So it's
So
not, I want people to know that this is not psychosomatic pain, something you're making up. Like
it's not
that's gotten a
imagined.
bad word. You're not imagining it, it is real. It does hurt. It is very painful. But there is, Alan Gordon just wrote a book called The Way Out. There is a way out.
This is,
And
yeah.
it's true.
And so from the time you found curable to now, about how much time was that?
I would say, I think it's been about 3 years.
Okay. So
For
what I
me,
want to, yeah, what I really want to encourage you to do is, I would say, first of all, you're like this close to putting this behind you. The back pain, there's nothing wrong with your back. Decide it's TMS. The fact that it goes away and comes back and came on when your sister was ill and you were supposed to visit her, you didn't fall off the roof. So there's nothing structural going on. You're fit, you're healthy, you're an exercise instructor. You're probably more fit and healthy than other people your age. So
right,
don't conclude that I must have done something, because if you did, you would have recovered already. The body heals. So even if there was a tweak when exercising, it would have healed in days or weeks. And so the fact that it's still going on is just your brain saying, "Oh, be careful, don't do this, don't do that." And especially if you're up there saying to the class, "Oh, I can't do certain things, but I want you to do this, but I can't because I got this back pain thing." You're confirming the brain's perception that those moves are dangerous when in fact they're not. So I think that tweak there, the food tweak on the migraines, and there's a thing called pain reprocessing. Alan Gordon talks about it in his book. I share it on one of my videos called Pain Reprocessing. And it's a matter of visualizing a good outcome. So visualize yourself eating some sweets or doing certain exercises that you avoided because you were worried about your back. Like visualize those things with a positive outcome, smiling with joy. And if I said, visualize yourself eating a bowl of ice cream, you might be like, "Ooh, might hurt. I don't know if I should do that." Little anxiety, a little fear there. But if you can't visualize it without the anxiety, you're not ready to eat it yet and convince your brain that you're fine, because you're going into it with fear. And if there's fear there, the brain's going to go fear equals danger. So headache, don't do that.
Hmm.
And so two little tweaks, you're going to be golden. You're going to be through this, no
And the
problem.
coaching, and the coaching the other people. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say for anybody watching this going, well, she's not better yet. She's infinitely better. She's like 90% better. She's got a couple little
Hmm. Oh
tweaks
yeah.
left. And if
Yes.
I were to ask Liz, would she be okay if she stayed where she is compared to where she was? What would you
Absolutely.
say? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So some people say this isn't worth it. If I can't get completely better, I'm not going to do any of this because I don't want to have any pain. I get it, but when you look at where you are, if you can get 70, 80, 90% better, why is that not worth a change in the way you think about yourself, your body, your pain, your emotions? You know, it's so worth it.
It is worth it. And just the mindset and not to have to suffer emotionally with it is a huge win for me.
Yeah, because you're not freaking out all the time
Mm-mm.
anymore. You're
No,
not
and I'm not
letting
letting
your
it
life
control my
around it.
life. Right.
Right.
And
You got your life back.
that's why I wanted to tell my story. I'm like, hey, if you can get rid of your pain completely, fantastic. I love that for you.
And you can
But
too.
yeah, and
Don't
I have
decide
to
that
get
you haven't or couldn't get there. You
right.
can too. You're
Yeah.
just still holding on to the little bit of concern and caution around the back, and you're
Yeah.
still holding on to the sugar story that you've been told or read or heard about in the migraine community. But there are ways of deconditioning this sugar response, and that the visualization plus a little graded exposure is the way to do it. So maybe it is, visualize it until you can do it without the anxiety and have a spoon of ice cream or a forkful of cake and stop. And the next day do a little bit more, maybe two spoonfuls, and prove to yourself that this doesn't have to hurt me, because it truly doesn't. And you've proven that based on your experience in the past where you've had
Right.
sugar and you didn't end up with a migraine. So you have evidence. Your back pain goes away. Your
Absolutely.
migraines don't happen every time you eat sugar. So there's no doubt. It's all just created in the brain based on the brain's perception or the level of danger that it's perceiving. So the more danger, the more likely you're going to get the migraine or the back pain. So let's
And
work
three
on teaching it.
and having one like a half a day is infinitely better than having one 3 days,
For
3 or 4 days.
sure. And you said the intensity is less as well.
Right. Hmm.
So indifference is a really useful tool for influencing positively the severity and the duration. And you've gotten most of the way there. Like I said, you're so close.
Hmm.
And so the more you can embrace indifference, and if you can't be indifferent, calmly reassure yourself. It sounds like you've already stepped out of the regular freakouts.
Hmm.
And so that's why you're doing so well. So a couple little tweaks, you're going to be fantastic. And for anybody watching, you know, I know for myself, if somebody were to say to me, hey, would you be willing to think differently and learn something new and kind of see yourself slightly differently as far as your physical being, in order to get rid of like 90% of your pain? I would have been like, sign me up.
Right.
Sign
Right.
me up. Sign me up. I don't need 100%. You're telling me 90% better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where can I sign up? Well, it's here. This is the answer. You can learn more at Pain Free You. I have a free YouTube channel, Facebook group where you can just watch daily videos every day. And so the answers are out there. Liz was not a coaching client, were you? I don't think we spoke before.
No. Mm-mm.
So Liz was able to make all this progress without even sending me a dime. And so that's the best thing in the world for me. Yeah, I'd like to make an income out of this, and I do. I have plenty of coaching clients, but you don't have to. If you don't have the money or you don't think you want to pay anybody for this, then watch the daily videos. It's a daily dose of health, safety. You can do this. Go you.
Right.
Confidence, and look what's possible. 90% better with just you know books, reading, podcasts, videos. So, do you have anything else you want to share, Liz?
I would just say that when I first started the journey, I think a little bit later, I went, you know what? I really believe this. I'm going to end this. I really believed it.
Yeah.
I just thought it's going to take some time, but I really believe that I found the answer.
Yeah. And you're like right here. So make a decision that you can get rid of this last little bit. You literally can, because if you can get this much better, you can get completely better.
Yeah.
It's not like we can only recover so much with this TMS approach. You just have to finish, teaching the brain that you're okay. And as long as you're still cautious about your back or
Right.
worried about the sugar, you're still kind of keeping your brain a little bit afraid that those things are bad. So it's going to keep the symptoms going. And you may not freak out about the symptoms when they come because you say, well, it's MS. But, if you want the brain to be certain that these things are not dangerous, you should get certain and think and say things differently so that you're reinforcing safety. These things are no big deal so that your brain believes it. If you're on the fence and kind of giving mixed messages to your brain, maybe why your symptoms are kind of lingering a little bit. So while this isn't a perfect, I'm 100% pain-free success story, it ends up being a really nice success story because it shows what's possible. And it also turned into a little bit of a teaching opportunity here so that
Yes.
Liz can, take away some ahas and lessons. And anybody watching this can as well. So
And that's
I,
why I did it, because it was like, I'm not totally, but I feel like people could learn that it's there.
and 90% better, still 90% better. Holy
Right.
cow.
Hmm.
That's fantastic.
I appreciate all you do for the TMS whole community. I mean, thank you so much. Your videos are just well worth it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a few minutes a day in the morning or whenever you find time to watch.
Right.
You go to YouTube and search for Pain Free You channel. You'll find it. Subscribe to the channel, and that way you can kind of get notified anytime the videos post. But every day, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, videos post, and literally every single day. So unless you have anything else to share, I want to thank you and really appreciate you jumping on here. And
You bet.
we'll probably take about a week before this posts, but you'll see it come across if you're watching the videos.
Oh yeah, I do. And I thank you for the opportunity to be able to tell my story.
No, that's great. And keep me posted on how you're doing when you make
I
these
will.
little tweaks about the back. Be much more clear because anybody who's watching, clarity really matters. Because if you're like wishy-washy on something like the sugar, maybe it is, maybe it's not. Your brain's always going to default to keeping you safe by keeping the symptoms going because, well, it might be dangerous, so I don't want her to eat that. So here's some pain to make sure she doesn't keep on eating it. So clarity and certainty and a definitive message to your brain is going to go a long way to just finishing this off so you can go, I'm done with that. And
Hallelujah.
that'll give you even that much more confidence if you have a friend or family member or somebody you meet
Yes.
that is struggling a little bit. So that's awesome. Anything
Okay.
else?
I don't think so.
All right. So say goodbye, everybody. And I appreciate it. Thanks, Liz.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.